Hi, it's Katrina, the Vatican's secret archive. Deep in the heart of the Vatican, hidden beneath the center of the Catholic religion, are 53 miles of shelving with 1,200 years worth of secret documents. This is the Vatican's secret archive, and it is quite legendary. As its name suggests, it is secretive, but the actual translation was probably supposed to be the private archives, meaning that they are the Pope's personal property. The official name was changed to the Vatican Apostolic Archive, but it's too late now. The name Secret Archive has stuck. For centuries, the archives have been the subject of speculation and conspiracy theories. While a lot of people don't believe that these sacred libraries exist, they are 100% real. The archives were entirely confidential until the 19th century, when Pope Leo XIII opened some of it up to Christian scholars. Only around 1,000 people are allowed in every year, and even the top scholars in Catholic history need to go through a very rigorous vetting process before they're even allowed to step foot inside the vault. These secrets are also held inside of what can only be described as a fortress deep within the Vatican itself. And while the Catholic Church does claim that they are not hiding anything horrifying within their archives, that is definitely up for debate. Of course, the Vatican would have you believe that the only thing stored inside of their giant vault is paperwork, 1,200 years of just paperwork. But the secretive nature, protection, and the trove of information make people wonder, what are they hiding down there? While we definitely don't know everything that's hidden within the Catholic Church's most impressive collection of documents, there are a few ancient papers that have been revealed through the years that really stand out. There is correspondence of royal families, top-secret memos, papal letters, and ancient versions of the Bible. The archives don't share any documents relating to a pope until 75 years after their death. An extremely secret document known as the Chignon Parchment was rediscovered in 2001 and then made public in 2007. This document details the trials of the Roman Catholic military, or the Knights Templar, proving that they were absolved of heresy in 1308 by Pope Clement V. There is a letter from Mary, Queen of Scots, forced to abdicate her throne and sentenced to death by her cousin Elizabeth I, begging the Pope for her life. There is the excommunication of Martin Luther, who sparked Protestantism, and documentation that has not been shared regarding the position of the Pope during World War II. There is also the rumor that they have documentation proving that Jesus fathered a child, as spread by the Da Vinci Code. While the Vatican has actually shared some of its collection, there is much that will probably remain a mystery forever. The Grand Canyon Forbidden Zone. The Grand Canyon has also been home to many controversies and wild speculations in recent years. Over 100 years ago, in 1909, a local Phoenix newspaper in Arizona reported that archaeologists had discovered an Egyptian cave in the Grand Canyon. This is obviously insane, because as far as we know, no Egyptians ever made it to North America. If true, the discovery of an Egyptian party of explorers in the Americas would flip the world of history on its head. Here's what happened. An explorer was floating down the Colorado River when he saw a strange cave carved into the side of one of the cliffs. He alerted the Smithsonian, who then sent their very own scientists to investigate. The local press got hold of the story, and they sent their own men to investigate. The reporters were shocked when it turned out the cave was filled with Egyptian artifacts. At the time, it was suggested that the Smithsonian hauled about 40 full truckloads of artifacts out of the cave, and then erased any proof the Egyptians were ever there. Naturally, the Smithsonian denies all of these claims. Why would they want to erase evidence? They say there never was a cave. No Egyptian people ever made it to North America thousands of years ago, and they never took away any mysterious artifacts. All these years later, there is no way to really know, but rumors like this always persist. Perhaps Egypt and the Nile and Arizona and the Colorado River are linked by a historical chain and mysterious tablets. But perhaps during this time, early propaganda in the United States wanted to promote manifest destiny and didn't really want to promote advanced indigenous people. So any artifacts and objects left over were hidden or destroyed to make it seem like the land was empty and up for grabs. Apart from all this, Ancient Origins reports there is truth to the fact that many geological formations of the Grand Canyon were named after Hindu and Egyptian gods and temples, but no one really knows who named these places. There is an alleged forbidden zone in Grand Canyon National Park where hikers can't enter and researchers can't explore. It is a place full of ancient tunnels carved out by the Hopi people. and no one can enter any of the caves or old salt mines, and no permits will ever be issued. Some speculate this forbidden zone could be hiding the secrets that scientists don't want us to know about a rogue group of Egyptians living in the Grand Canyon. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comments below. The Pillaged Spearo Mounds. In 1933, in eastern Oklahoma, a group of men searching for gold came across a clay structure. They hit it open with a pickaxe, which turned out to be a burial chamber. It was so well sealed that when the pickaxe broke through the clay wall, air hissed out for the first time in 500 years. Naturally, the gold prospectors broke their way into the tomb, having no idea what they had just discovered. It turned out to be a Native American burial mound. Not only did it contain skeletons, but also thousands of pearl and shell beads, pieces of copper treasure, piles of colorful blankets and ceremonial robes, and copper chest plates. It was basically full to the brim with treasure. According to Eric Singleton, curator of ethnology at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum, nothing like it had ever been found in North America at that time, and it was considered to be the Western equivalent of the discovery of King Tut's tomb. It became known as the Spearo Mound, with plenty more being discovered in the following years. But as for this one, every last artifact from within the grave was taken out and quickly sold and shipped across the globe. The treasures can now be seen in over 65 museums across the planet, with researchers saying that even almost 100 years later, this was the worst looting of an archaeological site on U.S. soil. The long-forgotten Spearo settlement could have changed the way we look at Native American history and archaeology in the United States, but it was never really given a chance. Space aliens breeding with humans. A recent poll has indicated that at least 6% of Americans believe that they have been abducted by aliens at one point or another. They say that extraterrestrials are using them to reproduce because they are having problems on their home planet. Also, aliens are creating hybrid beings so that they can one day take over the world. 6% is not very much at all, and there is never any evidence of these abductions. However, you might be surprised to learn that there are some reputable scientists in the world who are claiming that aliens are not only involved in breeding experiments between themselves and humans, but that they have been doing it for a very long time. An instructor at the University of Oxford in England named Young-Hae Chi believes that aliens are actually creating human and extraterrestrial hybrids that will be able to survive through the end of the world. According to Chi, as well as a retired Temple University historian named David Jacobs, who runs the International Center for Abduction Research, say that the numbers of reported alien abductions have risen dramatically over the past decades. As reported by NBC News, Jacobs has interviewed more than 1,000 people who claim to have been abducted, using hypnotic regression that apparently allows them to recall their unearthly encounters with aliens. One of the most popular explanations for this is that aliens are trying to create a new and better being that is going to be able to survive in a world where climate change creates boiling seas and flaming forests. But how can we tell if aliens or hybrids are really living among us? Chi says the reason we don't see the aliens is that they are largely unrecognizable. The Code of Ur-Nammu. The Code of Ur-Nammu is considered the oldest surviving code of law. The text was written on several clay tablets by ancient Sumerians. The code was transcribed sometime in the 3rd century BC, discovered in the 1900s by archaeologists excavating the ancient city of Nippur in modern Iraq. They found the law book split into 2 pieces, one detailing the origins of the code and the other proclaiming the 5 main laws. In 1952, these laws were translated by Samuel Kramer, world-renowned expert on ancient Mesopotamian cultures. By 1965, more fragments of the code were found and translated. By the time all was said and done, archaeologists had revealed 40 laws put down by the Sumerians to be obeyed by all. What's quite interesting is how similar the laws of Sumer thousands of years ago are to our own laws today. The capital offenses were things like murder and robbery, with punishment almost always being death. For less serious offenses, punishment usually included imprisonment or hefty fines. These were things like kidnapping, knocking out another man's tooth, and even practicing sorcery. They also had laws about accusing somebody who wasn't guilty. If you were to accuse a man of committing a crime, and that crime turned out not to be real, you instead would be the one who was punished. While there are earlier codes of law in history, it was this code of Ur-Nammu that survived on stone tablets. This code may have been written by King Ur-Nammu or his son, and this period in Sumerian history in the 3rd millennium BC is believed to have been generally peaceful and prosperous. Santa Muerte. Deep in the heart of Mexico, there is a bizarre cult dedicated to the Saint of Death. Her name is Santa Muerte, and she's become the preferred deity to those who feel as though they have been abandoned by the wildly powerful, ultra-rich churches of the world. She is worshipped by criminals, addicts, human traffickers, the destitute, and the dying. Worshipping Santa Muerte has exploded in popularity in recent years, even having a prominent role in the festivities of the Day of the Dead on November 1st and 2nd. Some call her the Bony Lady, some say she can grant wishes in exchange for offerings, and some say it's all just a cover for satanic activities. But according to Mr. Santana, a man who has been devoted to Santa Muerte all his life, it has nothing to do with the devil. Instead, Santa Muerte is fulfilling God's orders, giving people what they need and allowing them peace as they finish their life on Earth. Andrew Chestnut, the man who wrote a book on the newish cult, says it's the fastest-growing religion anywhere in the Americas. So far, Santa Muerte has roped in at least 12 million followers across the globe, mainly in the last decade. What does the Vatican think about 12 million people following the Saint of Death? Let's just say they don't like it very much. The Catholic Church has already denounced Santa Muerte, and so too have all the Catholic bishops in the United States, but no one else seems to care, especially not the saint's followers. The JFK Files. The JFK Files have been kept secret by the government for decades. These files are directly linked to President John F. Kennedy and his assassination. The files have helped to fuel all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories that others besides the notorious Lee Harvey Oswald were involved in his dramatic assassination. As far as we know, there are more than 35,000 documents inside the JFK files, but this information has never been seen by the public. Several collections of them have been released over the years, but they seem to be carefully selected and seriously redacted, meaning they didn't really say anything. But here's where this history gets seriously forbidden. In 1992, the JFK Records Collection Act was passed. This new act claimed that all the JFK files needed to be released to the public within 25 years. This was set to happen under the presidency of Donald Trump, but it didn't. The public waited for the JFK files to be released, in compliance with the deadline set, and for archival evidence to be revealed. But anything interesting was again held back. Apparently, the files were able to be kept from the public eye because of an obscure rule that states no files need to be released if they pose an identifiable national security issue. After all these years of waiting, President Donald Trump pushed the unfiltered release of the JFK files back to October 26, 2021. Do you think they will ever be released? Let me know in the comments below. Neolithic Egypt. In the year 3100 BC, the great dynasty of what we think of as ancient Egypt began. This was the beginning of the pharaohs and the pyramids. But what happened before that? Who were the mysterious people who gave rise to the powerful kingdoms of ancient Egypt? According to the experts, Neolithic activity was going on in Egypt somewhere around 6,000 years before the first pharaoh. It was the lifestyle and technological advancements made by these unnamed humans that allowed Egypt to blossom into the advanced civilization we think of today. But who were these people, and how did any of this happen? Or maybe an even more important question, why does it seem mainstream archaeologists have ignored the Egyptian ancestors? The answer is they haven't. They actually are trying, but it is extremely difficult. There are changes in human migration patterns and advances in technology and changes in the land and environment that will just make you bored. However, recent analysis of 6 ancient burial sites may shed some light that will grab your attention. One of the problems with trying to research prehistoric Egypt is that the sites created by the even earlier people are either completely gone or hidden under the sand. These 6 newest sites were excavated in the Western Desert, and researchers uncovered proof that whoever lived here before the Egyptians did things like domesticate cattle and goats, buried their dead in complicated tombs, and they built megalithic structures. We don't have an exact identity for them yet, but judging by the handful of skeletons recently uncovered and a small assortment of artifacts, we can safely say there was an entire civilization living in Egypt before the pharaohs ever took over. We just don't know who they were, where they learned new technologies, or where they even came from. The Magdalene Movement. Between 1837 and 1992, the Donnybrook Laundry served as a workhouse for fallen women. The Magdalene Movement included many of these workhouses where for over 200 years, women in Ireland were sent as punishment for being sexually active outside of marriage. These women included mothers who bore children out of wedlock, women who flirted too much with their neighbors, and other women who were declared fast or unfit for polite society. They were basically single and had nowhere else to go. These women were forced into slave labor under strict supervision of the nuns that ran the workhouses. These nuns would not so much look after the women sent to the institution, but make sure they were continuously punished with the intent to redeem themselves through labor. Remember, idle hands are the devil's work. Sometimes women would enter the workhouses and would be left to languish inside the institution for their entire lives. Once they were there, they were trapped. These institutions were known as Magdalene laundries. Conditions in the laundries were often more like prisons, with women subjected to beatings, hard labor, vows of silence, head shaving, a diet of bread and water, and other forms of cruelty. Many of these women were essentially imprisoned for having bad luck, a bad life, and no male able to take care of them. The Irish public wasn't aware of the depth of the cruelties until the Sisters of Our Lady Charity sold their land in Donnybrook and petitioned to have the graves there moved. What was found in the cemetery was horrifying. There were scores of unmarked graves that included nameless women and infants. The Irish public was furious when they learned about this. The incidents became known as the Magdalene Movement. The Magdalene Movement erupted in the middle of the 18th century as a way for the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church to keep their subjects in line. The churches of the time feared that prostitution was becoming too prevalent in larger cities and were concerned that more and more women would be tempted into the profession. Hence, they were sent to the laundries to be put to work. Thanks for watching! What do you think of all these forbidden historical secrets? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We have lots more videos coming up. See you later. Bye!